Okay, welcome guys. We're just going to talk about one of the questions that CAA loves to ask. I'm going to show you two different ways or two different types of questions that they can ask like this. The very first one is similar to this one, where they would say QNH is 1023, field elevation is 3,000 feet, and then they'll ask you for what is the pressure altitude. Okay, so these are typical pressure altitude questions that they love to ask. So let me give you a little bit of help in trying to solve this thing. Now, the very first thing that we need to know is this rule, which says for 1 hectopascal is equal to 30 feet. Okay, we're going to use this just now, and it's quite a nice little rule that's going to help us solve this problem. Now, the very first thing that I tell my guys to do whenever they get a question like this is to draw. Okay, so we bring out our primary school skills and we draw this. Okay, now kind of trying to figure out what this is. This is now your ocean over here, and then this is land. Okay, so what do we know about this field? We know that the field is 3,000 feet. Okay, so I'm going to write 3,000 feet. Right. Now remember, 3,000 feet is from there all the way to sea level. Then we also know QNH 1023. So I'm going to write QNH in over here, 1023. And remember, QNH is the pressure at mean sea level. So that's why I've drawn it at 1023 at sea level. Then the next question that I want to ask you is, what is this pressure altitude? What are we talking about when we talk about pressure altitude? So pressure altitude is the height of something above the standard, above what is known as QNE. Okay, now QNE is 1013.2. Okay, we don't worry about the 2 when we solve these questions, we just round it off to 1013. Now, the question I want to ask you to think about is 1013 above 1023 or is it below 1023? Okay, now what I'm asking is, in essence, what I'm asking is the pressure going to increase when we go higher, or is it going to decrease when we go higher, or is it going to increase when we go low, or decrease when we get low? Okay, so if you remember, the higher you go, the less air there is above you, which means because air has mass, there's going to be a lower pressure exerted. So 1013 is going to sit above here. 1013. Now remember, this is very exaggerated to try and show you guys the point. So obviously this is a little bit out of proportion, but it's still going to help you solve the problem. Okay, now the question is asking us for pressure altitude. So pressure altitude is saying, what is this height? What is that? Okay, now nice way to solve this is if we can figure out what this is. Okay, then we can take that, or the elevation, minus this, and it'll give us this answer. So 3,000 feet, we're going to write over here. We've got it stored over there. Then we've got a hectopascal difference between these two of 10 hectopascals. And we know that 1 hectopascal is equal to 30 feet. So if we take 10 times by 30, we're going to get an answer of 300 feet. So that means there is 300 feet difference between these two sections over here, between 1013 and 1023. So that means now, if we take this minus, let me find my black pen, minus 300, which is this one over here, we're going to get an answer of 2,700 feet, which means that is our pressure altitude, which means we've solved the problem.